Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Anatolian Dispatch. Today, our guest is Özgür Ünlühisarcıklı, and apologies to every Turkish speaker for the way I just handled that name. My apologies. He is the director of the German Marshall Fund in Ankara, Turkey. If you're unfamiliar with the German Marshall Fund, I definitely recommend that you go and check out their website. Just German Marshall Fund, Google that, and you'll be able to find it. It's a wealth of information. For my money, it is one of the leading institutions helping to bring cohesiveness and understanding to the transatlantic community, of which Turkey is, I believe, a part. And today we're going to talk about, Özgür is going to give us some of his perspective on the connections between Turkey and the transatlantic community, which sometimes seem to be fraying and at other times seem to be quite strong. So with that, Özgür, if you could just kind of give us your initial views on Turkey and the transatlantic community.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. As a matter of fact, I would like to start by actually talking about Turkey-US relations and Turkey-EU relations separately, because they have similar dynamics, but also different dynamics. On Turkey-US relations, some of the commentators on the issue assume that there once was a golden age in the relationship, which we lost and which we can revive. The reality is there was never a golden age. This was always a relationship of necessity in the case of Turkey, and practicality in the case of the United States, but it was never a love affair. And even during the Cold War, there were episodes where the relationship hit the bottom, as well as episodes of very warm relationships. Well, Turkey was under an arms embargo in 1974 by the United States. Well, the car of the US ambassador in Turkey was burnt down by students protesting the United States. The US Marines were actually not allowed to enter Istanbul at some point. So this was actually always a troubled relationship, but the two sides managed to stay together because they both knew that it was better for them to have this cooperation rather than not. So that was a rational decision. As we're talking today, I think there are three structural problems in the US-Turkey relationship. First of all, we do not have a valid framework of the relationship. The framework of the US-Turkey cooperation was actually devised during the Cold War, based on the Cold War realities, and based on the United States of the time and the Turkey of the time. The Cold War is over. The United States is a different country with different objectives. Turkey is a different country with different threat perceptions, different capabilities, and a different outlook. So I think that we first need to devise a new framework for the relationship. This is a structural problem that will outlive President Erdogan. And then there is the issue of actually beyond distrust, there is mutual suspicions between the United States and Turkey. Americans suspect that Turkish foreign policy is driven by an Islamist ideology, which puts certain US interests in the region and actually US allies in the region in harm's way. And the United States is now suspicious that Turkey could flip to the dark side, be it Russia, be it Iran, and this raises the issue of Turkey's reliability. Because as a matter of fact, until the Iraq War, or even until the first Gulf War, the assumption in Washington was that Turkey would be actually there for the United States when the United States finally needed Turkey. But then when the United States needed Turkey, in Afghanistan, Turkey was there. But when the United States needed Turkey in Iraq, Turkey was not there. So this actually has raised a question of Turkey's reliability from Washington's perspective. As Turkey's reliability as an ally, will Turkey be there when we need Turkey? Now, from Ankara's perspective, Turkey also has three suspicions. The most acute suspicion is that the United States has a long-term agenda of creating a Kurdish state along Turkey's borders, which would in time claim Turkish territory. This is the lens through which Turkey has seen the Iraqi invasion, And this is the lens through which Turkey sees US cooperation with PYD-YPG. And then, well, let's say Turks in general are suspicious that the United States meddles with Turkish politics. Well, for the opposition, I mean, it also, like most people believe in this, but not necessarily complain about it. Like if you believe that the United States is intervening on behalf of what you would prefer, then they remain silent. But if you believe that the United States intervenes in a way that harms your, let's say, political interest, then you're more against this. I see this in a way hypocritical, of course. Like I'm against foreign intervention in Turkish politics, whomever it comes from, whether it comes from Russia, whether it comes from the United States. For me, it's a matter of principle. But unfortunately, there is this thing that while some people expect the United States to play a bigger role in Turkey, others, let's say, argue the other way. But anyway, but this becomes more acute around President Erdogan and the circles around him. I believe that President Erdogan genuinely believes that the United States wants to remove him from office using any means necessary. As a matter of fact, during the Pastor Brunson crisis, when he was talking on the record to Turkish media, he said, and in the following quote, please replace they with the United States, because it makes a lot of sense. He said, they attacked us through Gezi protests. They have failed. They attacked us with corruption allegations. They have failed. Now they're attacking our economy. Well, no, he said then they attacked us through a coup attempt. They have failed. Now they're attacking our economy. They will fail again. We shall prevail. He actually also said in the future they shall use other means to attack us. So he, I believe, genuinely sees the United States behind every political misfortune that has happened to him. And he does have reasons to think so. I mean, like the United States is a huge bazaar of ideas. And if you pick the right ideas that support your narrative, then you'll find them, because there's also all sorts of narratives in the United States. That's what political diversity.
I think it's valuable to start with this, because the first thing is to dismiss this notion that somehow there was this golden age in U.S.-Turkish relationship. Well, one of my other regular guests is a retired Canadian colonel, and he's written extensively on the fact that U.S. and Turkish relations were devastated by two things in the 60s: the Johnson letter, and then, well, actually in the 70s, then the embargo. And both of those were interpreted, and this is the job of diplomats. The job of diplomats is to tell our superiors in Washington, and I'm now retired, but it hasn't changed. The job of diplomats in a foreign country is to get the message back to their capital. This is the host country's perspective. In other words, when I was in Ankara, my job was to bring to the knowledge of the people in Washington the Turkish perspective. So it's very valuable. Unfortunately, it's not always listened to. And I think a lot of people, particularly in the US military, still cling to this notion of some sort of golden age of US-Turkish relations, and completely gloss over the Johnson letter, the embargo. We could throw into there the Hooding incident with Turkish special forces in northern Iraq, which I think was in 2007. So yeah, I mean, getting that perspective into the minds of policymakers in Washington sometimes is difficult. But I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please go on.
No problem. I mean, look, this is an important point. So we should not treat this relationship as a love affair or a relationship based on historical friendship. We don't need to be romantical about this. This is a relationship based on realistic expectations. This needs to be a relationship based on realistic expectations on both sides, because as a matter of fact, what we lack in terms of, let's say, mutual emotions, actually we make up for it in terms of strategic compatibility that Turkey lacks with any let's say, major player in its neighborhood. But anyway, so Turks also, let's say, or President Erdogan genuinely believes that the United States wants to remove him from office. He actually has similar, let's say, concerns about the West in general. He knows actually that he is not really liked, which is probably, I can say, is a reality if you follow what people in the United States and Europe think. And then he takes this as hostility towards his person, towards his political career. And then, of course, Turks also have concerns about the reliability of the United States as a partner. Like now, Ankara, people in Ankara are saying, well, we needed the United States in our fight against terrorism. They were not there. Or let's say, when we try to handle our own business without the help of the United States, we also always see the United States on the other side, be it in the Caucasus, be it in Libya, be it in Greece, etc. So there is this perception also in Ankara that Turkey cannot rely on the United States when Turkey really needs the United States. And, you know, in some circles, this goes all the way to would the United States ultimately provide Turkey's security if Russia was to engage Turkey militarily? So there is this distrust also. And then there is the third problem, which may appear smaller than the first two, but I think is very important. So it's not only public opinion towards each other is very low, the strategic ownership of the relationship has melted down. You know, in Washington, probably from your conversations, that there are very few people who have positive opinions of Turkey nowadays. And even those people who do have positive opinions prefer to remain silent against a huge choir, which has the opposite view. There's a similar situation in Turkey. You basically cannot speak about the United States favorably without being attacked by a crowd. Mm-hmm. So also there is this situation that prevents positive, warm relations. With the European Union, the situation is, in many ways, is very different. It's a structural relationship. Turkey is in customs union with the European Union. The European Union is not one player. With some EU member states, Turkey actually has very strong structural bonds, like with Germany, the trade relationship, the Turkish families in Germany, the Germans who have traveled to Turkey. I mean, that's an unbreakable relationship. Or right. With some Mediterranean countries, you know, like with Italy, Spain, you know, trade relations, even like cultural affinity in some cases. So with the European Union, the relationship is really very diverse and structured. But there is a similar, actually, distrust in Turkey towards the European Union, and also a similar distrust in the European Union towards Turkey. And I think at the core of this mutual distrust is the mutual agreement that we should keep saying that Turkey will one day be a member of the EU, and we all know it won't. It probably won't. Or let me put it this way. I never want to prophesize about the future, but for an unclear objective, we may be actually sacrificing things that Turkey and the European Union could do together now, actually, today. So there is a similar problem of a governance framework of the relationship between the Turkey and the EU as well. We take the Turkey's EU accession process as the governing framework of the relationship, whereas a lot of things that Turkey and the EU can do together in the area of foreign policy, security, humanitarian assistance, etc., have nothing to do with Turkey's EU accession process. So there is a similar governance framework, problem of governance framework between Turkey and the EU as well. And in both cases, I can say that even for the most pro-Western Turks, there is frustration in Turkey that we cannot get anywhere. I mean, for years we have been talking, we're trying to, and there's this feeling in Turkey that Turkey is being treated unfairly. This is widespread among the elite as well as among the people. So I believe that unless these structural problems are addressed, we can solve the current problems, perhaps, at least some of them, but these structural problems will generate others.
I want to stay with the structural problem, because I think you're absolutely right. I think it's the structural problems that people that they gloss over, they try to ignore, they just don't want to deal with, because it doesn't fit the narrative that they have constructed about the relations between Turkey and the United States, or in fact about the narrative they have about what Turkey is. And you know what some of those really negative elements of the narrative about Turkey can be from certain people. I think it's really good that you mentioned the fact that in the United States there's a bazaar of ideas. So you go shopping in the bazaar and you pick the ideas that you want if you are a Turkish leader who wants to point out certain problems in the United States with certain people. Well, of course. But I do want to talk about what your perception is of what I call the depersonalization, I hope, of relations between Turkey and the United States. We all know that President Trump ran a very kind of personalized foreign policy. It was about him. I mean, this fits into his whole personality. It was about his ego, his success, his personal conviction that he could make a deal with anyone.
Master of the deal, right?
Yeah, right. And I think the transition to the Biden administration is going to lead to a more, I hope it's going to lead to a more kind of professional and looking at what are the areas where, I mean, for example, recently President Biden, after meeting with President Putin of Russia, said there will be areas where we can cooperate, there will be areas where we will be competitors, and there will be other areas where we're in conflict. And that's actually kind of what happens almost all the time. So do you see that there's any chance that dealing with these structural problems might begin to be chipped away at under the new administration in the US?
Well, some of them, or let's say I think the approach from Washington is first of all right. When Biden was yet not elected, people in Turkey and in the United States who value the relationship were making one of the following three suggestions, either one of the following three suggestions. One school of thought said that Turkey and the United States should do a grand bargain and then reset the relationship. We should sit around the table, address all of the problems, resolve all of the problems so that we have a tabula rasa, which sounds great, but which was very unlikely, which will not be the case. And then another school of thought, a growing school of thought, actually says we should just decouple. It doesn't work. Turkey and the United States are not natural allies, and there's no reason that they should. Now, this is very realistic, very easy to do, but it's very high cost for both of them. Turkey cannot find any other actor that can provide what the United States is providing Turkey. Russia neither has the means nor the willingness to do that for Turkey. China is in a different region, and it may grow the need, it may grow the means at some point, but it won't have the willingness to do so. So Turkey, like it or not, is actually stuck with the United States. And as for the United States, of course, the United States is a superpower. It has many more alternatives, but there is no way it will find a similar ally in Turkey's region with the capabilities that Turkey has and with the geographic advantages that Turkey has, and also like years of investment in the relationship also matters. So decoupling is easy to do, but why do you want to ruin a working relationship? And then a third school of thought says, why do we need to do anything? Just let's continue as we are. Let this be diminished into a transactional relationship. Transactionalism is the order of the day anyway, not only between Turkey and Iran. This sounds reasonable, actually. This sounds almost wise, but the problem is Turkey and the United States are still treaty allies. I mean, you cannot suggest pure transactionalism for two treaty allies.
Right.
As a matter of fact, Şaban Kardeş, I don't know if you know him, is a professor of political science at TÜBİTAK University. Şaban Kardeş and I have authored a report suggesting a new framework where we said that there should be two different governing or a dual governing framework in the relationship between Turkey and the United States, which in summary, issues that fall into the domain of transactional cooperation or let's say NATO's jurisdiction should be governed strategically. But then issues that fall outside of NATO's jurisdiction, such as Syria, Iraq, etc., should be handled in a bilateral relationship format. And as for the bilateral relationship format, there will be, as is now the policy in the United States, there will be issues that we agree on. We should continue to cooperate on them. There will be issues that we have unbridgeable divides in the foreseeable future. Well, then we should agree to disagree on those, but that is not enough, because when you agree to disagree, you have the risk of actually stepping on each other's toes. So we should not only agree to disagree, but we should create crisis prevention mechanisms, as we have actually currently in Syria, for the east of Syria. I mean, for the east of Syria, Turkey and the United States have opposing views, have policies that contradict each other. But during the last year or so, as a matter of fact, we have not come even close to a real crisis because of the, let's say, real-time dialogue, because of demarcation lines, both sides knowing their borders, etc.
Right.
So such mechanism. And then there is another area, actually, issues that we disagree on, but on which we could actually reach an agreement if either of the parties made, or either or both of the parties made minor concessions. Take the case of Iran. So Turkey and the United States are not exactly on the same page on Iran. But as a matter of fact, once the United States takes the threat of military intervention off the table, we could be on the same page. And that's what's happening actually today. So I think that we should continue to work on where we agree. We should create crisis prevention mechanisms where we disagree. And then we should spend most of our efforts on trying to bridge our divides where possible.
Right. Right. No, I mean, that makes eminent sense. I think from my own perspective, one of the faults that was always present was people did not understand that the relationship with Turkey within NATO as a treaty ally was, in a sense, in a compartment apart from all the other the other aspects of the relationship, whether they were security aspects or whether they were economic aspects or what have you. And I think, this notion of having a dual governing framework, a dual track governing framework, one where the issues are with NATO, and then there's the other issues that are not with NATO and they're dealt with bilaterally. The truth of the matter is we already do that with a lot of other countries that are NATO treaty allies. Go ahead.
Yeah, and one important thing, my battery may die. There is a cabling problem here, which, oh my God, it should not happen. Anyway, okay, apologies for that, Ed. But also, I must say that I get pretty frustrated when in the West, people ask if Turkey is still, let's say, if Turkey is still needed by the transatlantic alliance, if Turkey can be, let's say, if Turkey should be kicked out of NATO. And
this drives me crazy.
Such a waste of time, such a blindness. I mean, look, now the United States is withdrawing from Afghanistan, and guess which NATO ally can actually keep the airport secure? Or, whether you like it or not, and in some cases, of course, Turkey is not immune from criticism, but as a matter of fact, in Syria, in Libya, and in the Caucasus, Turkey is the country that, in ways that can be criticized in the West, is actually containing Russia actively and paying a price for doing so. So these arguments actually are based on the assumption that Turkey is a free rider in NATO. I must say that, yes, there are free riders in NATO, but Turkey is definitely not one of them. Has never been one of them.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into the whole issue about Turkish military pride, the notion that they would somehow be a free rider. There's uh-oh, what is that? Oh, it's somebody calling me, never mind. So yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I like the fact that you noted the term reliable. And from the Turkish perspective, there really are hard questions to be asked about the reliability of the United States. By the way, during the Trump administration, we had the issue of, Donald Trump was asked specifically, what about Article 5? Are we going, and he was playing his game. But now, of course, the United States was going to stand by Article 5 if it ever were called to do so.
For its own sake. I mean,
right. But what happened? What did Trump do? He undermined that confidence in the alliance, and let's be honest, it is a defensive military alliance, and if you somehow undermine confidence in the provisions of Article 5, what is its reason for actually continuing to exist? And I don't think he realized that. People around him did. People, advising him did, and tried to walk him back quickly, but he was a difficult person to walk back from anything. So, but that communicates to people, and there have been other incidents too. But we're running out of time, which is a shame.
Just one thing on this.
Yeah.
I mean, one problem that we have is NATO is so successful that actually people can take it for granted. I mean, that's the curse of its own success. Like if Russia treats Turkey with a semblance of respect, it's because Turkey is a NATO ally.
Right.
But because Russia does that, we don't realize.
Well, there's one of my favorite historians, Neil Ferguson, has just come out with a book called Doom, and it looks at the pandemic and the response to it and all this. But one of the things he makes that point is that if you succeed in preventing a disaster or a catastrophe, it doesn't do you any good, because politically people expect it. And now people have had 75 years of NATO providing a blanket of security for the transatlantic community, and it's only if it failed would anyone notice, which is it's a good thing, but it has that other side. Yeah, I mean, just real quickly on that point, I won't mention his name, but yes, there is one commentator, political commentator in Washington, who gets up on his hobby horse or soapbox, I guess, and regularly calls for Turkey to be expelled from NATO. Now, set aside for the moment that there is no expulsion provision. If that were to ever happen, NATO would end. If it ever got to the point where somehow a group of members of NATO could decide who is or is not a member of it, why would the other members have any confidence, trust? I mean, it is based on each member having confidence that the other members will stand by them. And that's why it's succeeded. That's why it's so useful. And the notion of expelling Turkey every time, he comes out with this from time to time, it just drives me nuts. But we do have to wrap up. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So if you were to say one thing to American policymakers, and not just people in the White House, but also people in Capitol Hill, and in kind of the foreign policy community, the different think tanks and those people, what was it you would tell them that they really need to keep in mind when dealing when the US is dealing with Turkey?
Well, I would say that don't take Turkey as a fixed variable. Turkey is changing, Turkey is evolving. Turkish political landscape is actually evolving in front of our very eyes. And there's a new generation of Turks that are rising, that are actually very different from the former generations. So I would say, don't take any, let's say, disruptive steps for the sake of what you see today, risking what would be possible in the future. So don't cause any permanent rupture, and understand that Turkey is a, let's say, very sophisticated, complicated, big country with different people, with different thoughts, very diverse, like the United States, and is actually evolving in ways that can actually make it even a better candidate for an ally for the United States. So this is one thing that I would say. But if you allowed me to say a second thing, which I forget. Also, I think that the relationship should be professionalized on both sides. This is a relationship for professionals. This is a relationship that should be depoliticized. This is a relationship that is not supported by the public opinion on either side and should not be a victim to adversarial public opinion on either side. So in both cases, I would say that rationality, reason, should prevail over emotions.
Okay, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. I wish you had more time, but we try to limit these so that we keep our audience and we keep them coming back for more. So I hope that in the not too distant future, we can have you back again and pursue some of the threads that you developed here a little further, if that's okay.
Looking forward to it.
Okay. Özgür, thanks very much. And
thank you.
Have a good time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Don't go away.
I won't. Thank you.